Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Teach a lesson. Stephen Gaither. Kindric,
What's going on?
Ready to teach a lesson today? Got my adjuncts in the house today. Welcome to episode 5. What's
going on, Stephen?
Good stuff. Welcome to episode 535 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, from institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. Quite simply, we call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host. Today, I have none other than Stephen J. Gaither and Kindric Hooks. Stephen Gaither of HBCU Game Day, founder, and we got Kindric Hooks of D2 HBCU Football. Check him out, follow him, give them all the information and likes that they need. These folks are informative. We can give you a little twist and turn too, so they can get with you if you don't know how to take care of yourself. But with that being said, Mike and Charles are out on assignment. You know, it is what it is. I'm going to pull some of them checks before it get too long. I have to dock them some pay. But we're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KSWA AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. I am Stephen Gaither. How you doing today?
I'm doing okay, gentlemen. How about you guys?
I can't doing well. Where are you coming from?
Man, just staying busy. Football season getting ready to start, and like I said, the little one's keeping me busy. She had to get her shots today, so I've been running, but everything's good.
Oh, nice, good stuff. Kindric, how you doing today, man?
Man, I can't complain, and as my grandma would say, don't complain because it won't do no good no way. So I'm here. It's coming around that time of year, football season, so I'm ready to get started.
Man, a lot of truth there. So much truth in those statements. I tell you, grandmother obviously knew what she was talking about during the day. With that being said, I'm stick with you, Kindric. What is some news, HBCU news of the day? What's on your mind? What's hot out there? It just has you thinking a little more about HBCU sports these days.
I'm waiting on the SIAC to announce that we're gonna get instant replay. I see that the SAC conference, they announced that they're getting instant replay. So I'm ready for us to get instant replay because there was a couple of plays that could turn some games around last year. So that's been on my mind heavy today.
Tell me a couple of plays here and there. I like that. Let me go to you, Stephen. What's on your mind? What's hot out there in the HBCU sports place that has you going today?
Oh, man. Well, I think just, still just kind of feeling the reverberations from, everything that happened down in Tallahassee to start the week. We know it's going to be something from those guys almost every week. And I'm sure you guys talked at length about it on Tuesday, so I won't rehash it. But just, seeing that with all the changes that are going on, we're 10 days out. I think now tomorrow's 10 days from, or just over a week out from the start of the new season. And so it's just going to be really interesting. I know we'll get into it a little bit, but I was just thinking today about as long as I've been covering HBCU sports, I don't know if I've ever come into a season where I have felt like I had less of an idea of what was going to happen than I do right now, as we said, a week out from it. So I'm just kind of seeing where things fall where they may, and also checking out the new recruiting classes that all the universities have put in as well. So just keeping an eye on that too. So it's the start of the school year, and which means the start of football season. So I'm excited about that.
I appreciate that perspective when you are open and forthright, because I said the same thing. This is one of the first times I can remember covering HBCU sports in the last maybe 20-some years, where I could honestly say at the major division level, things are wide open. And even in the mid-major level, while you probably know the teams that are at the top, there's not necessarily a shoe-in. There's going to be an argument in terms of those top 3, maybe 4 teams in the CIAA. You can decide how you want to split it up between the divisions, as they still do it, or in the SIAC. And it might be a little deeper in terms of the top 5 or 6 teams. Some may even say 7 that will be fighting for the top 2 spots to play for the SIAC championship, as they did away with divisions, as everybody starting last year. So it'll be fascinating to see as we kind of follow the season, what does that look like? But yes, really across the board, really a wide open season, and people make their arguments of what they think here and there. In a lot of ways, people can make some legitimate arguments about why their team going to find a way to get it done. And on the show on Tuesday, when we unveiled those top 7, there was some dialogue back and forth in terms of what that top 7 looked like. Most folks agreed upon it. I think there were 1 or 2 teams they might have shot up and pushed down. But when it got to the question of who was on top, I went back and broke down just how close the votes were in terms of the division between number 1 and 2 in the SWAC, particularly in the Western Division. It was really close, and there wasn't a lot of breakdown. With that being said, Kindric, what are your thoughts in terms of the SIAC race? What do you think is going to go on there? Do you think it's going to be a tight race, or do you see some teams finding a way to separate themselves, unlike what Gaither kind of put on the table?
Yeah, okay. I think I was having a few technical difficulties, and I think I heard your question, but you asked what I thought about the rankings so far. I didn't catch the last part.
Yeah, just the SIAC going into the season. What do you think in terms of those teams that are going to be fighting for the top of the conference? Do you see it as being very deep, 5, 6, 7 teams, or do you think it's going to be really 2 or 3 teams that find a way to separate themselves?
I'll say I think there's only 4 teams that have a legitimate shot at the SIAC championship game. One of the things that has happened is going to that a lot of people don't talk about is going to that 8-game mandate kind of put the schools that are not at full scholarships at a disadvantage. When we just had the divisions, if you could manage your roster properly, you could roll off 4 wins to get to a championship game. Some of those schools that come to mind, like Lane is a scrappy school, but you start talking about a school that has 18 scholarships, spread it around 90 plus guys. It gets limited there. And so for them to try to be able to maintain the depth that you need to go through such a gruesome schedule to get to a championship game, I think it kind of knocks out some teams. Now, can those teams play spoilers and slip in there and get wins? Of course they can, because they have great coaches. But legitimately, just looking at what teams lost in the transfer portal, what teams had coming back, and what they added, I really only see 4 teams having a legitimate shot at the SIAC championship game.
Yes, I'm going to go back to you and talk a little bit about that specific for the CIAA side. I know you talked about, obviously, the depth across the board in HBCU sports from major and mid-major division, as I like to call it, on this side of the tracks, if you would. But what do you see in terms of the CIAA race while I have your expertise on the show? Kind of give me your thoughts in terms of how deep similar to what Kindric talked about. Do you see it deep? And for your perspective, how deep is it in terms of the two divisions?
Yeah, I think for me, I think that the CIAA, I think any of the teams that were voted in the top 5 have a legitimate chance to get to the CIAA championship game. And that is Virginia State, Virginia Union, but also Fayetteville State, Bowie State, and then Johnson C. Smith. I can't even believe that really came out of my mouth, but it did. It's legit. You talk about scholarships and things like that. They have put money in their program, and they do have a full allotment of scholarships. And so any of those teams, I would not be surprised if any of them made the CIAA championship game or a combination of it. As you said, we don't have divisions in name, but based on what happened with St. Augustine's and then the decisions that how they happened, there's still pretty much that divisional format where you got your couple of cross games against the other divisions, and obviously the CIAA North has been the stronger divisions. Has been the stronger division over the last couple of years. Prior to that, the South had it on lock, and so it kind of ebbs and flows. But this year with that, I think that's a great equalizer. And so I think any of those 5 teams, I would not be surprised if they got in there. And then, as you guys already, you got those teams in the middle, your Lincolns, your Livingstones, your Winston-Salem States. I think I wouldn't put it past any of them to pull off some upsets and make the race interesting. So I know everybody's counting on a Virginia game, and I think people will just think it's so much of a reality of a Virginia pre-championship game and then a Virginia championship game. I think it seems so predictable that it probably won't happen. Somewhere, something's going to happen. V-State's going to lose to Elizabeth City State or maybe Winston-Salem State. Union is going to slip up. They lost a couple years and lost to Chowan. So that's kind of been it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Fayetteville State, I say it once again, they're not sexy, but they find a way to win. They've been finding a way to win. And, they find a way to get to Salem. And what they do when they get there is a whole different thing, but they find a way to
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Make sure in our last segment, we'll come back to this a little bit. And I want to get your opinions just on that. The division framework or taking the top 2 teams based on some overall record in conference play and tiebreakers based on who comes out of that. Just kind of get your opinions on what it looks like. We've seen a little bit of talk about that over the first 2 years of the expanded SWAC. People thought about that. Last year, it really didn't make much of a difference in terms of who would have played in it. But I would like to see what your thoughts of how that would look in the CIAA. Are you for it or against it? We know the rationale, at least in the SWAC, CIAA, a lot of that is about travel. But it could give a whole different look in terms of what that looks like. So we're going to take our first break. Before we do that, let me give a shout out to some of the lab listeners. Silas Lennon is in the house. Emma out here. Wendell Davis, his brother Davis out there getting it done. Brandon King is representing for Tennessee State, checking us out as well. Gladys is on here. So just want to give a little shout out on that side of the window. Thank you all for tuning in for sure. Obviously, we have HBCU Band Talk as he's over there on the YouTube side. That was Facebook that I was shouting out for those checking us out. Jeff Roberts, 80 Drew. Shout out 80 Drew. I did do your last 7 spots. I did the last 728. So we will kind of show that in the next segment before we get into unveiling that top 7 and see what these gentlemen thought about. So shout out to 80 Drew as he requested. He wanted the last 7 mid-major programs to see where they were. We won't discuss it, but we'll give them out for everybody. Emmett Jones is in here. Russell Haynes, giving a little shout out for the lab listeners on both sides of it. Shout out to those following us on Twitter and Instagram as well. In terms of that, we'll get you all some recognition as well. Let's take our first break and come back on the other side and get into the first 4 of the top 7 as well as the bottom 7 of what was supposed to be the 21, but AD Drew wanted to know the whole 28, 29 whatsoever. So stick with us. Be right back after this break.
At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
Atlanta, Georgia. The HBCU Football Capital hosts the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge on August 24th. Florida A&M Rattlers, Norfolk State Spartans. SWAC versus MEAC. The rivalry is real. Come out to Center Park Stadium to see the returning HBCU national champions and 2 of the best HBCU bands in the land, the Marching 100 and the Spartan Legion. The day starts with a kickoff fan experience tailgate and concludes with a primetime matchup on ABC. For more information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into our unveil of this top 7. As I promised before we get in there, let's look at these bottom 28 as we open things up and give you the list in terms of what's going on in terms of that first 28, as they would say. I want to kind of see your thoughts on that as we get into what that looks like. In terms of those 28, I'm going to save those to the back of the show, and we'll get into the top 7 and just go straight forward like that. In terms of number 7, Fort Valley State Wildcats. As we get into the program, Fort Valley State Wildcats at last year, they were 8-3, 6-2 in 2003, 142 points getting into the mix. A lot of talk in terms of the heads they've turned and where their program is. It'll be interesting to kind of see what is Fort Valley going to be up to this year with Sean Gibbs. Third year in terms of the program, 16-5 overall, 11-4 as he gets it done there. Moving on to number 6. At number 6, Benedict Tigers. You had the Benedict Tigers at 11-1, 8-0 last year, the last back-to-back, if you would. National mid-major champions, according to Dr. Ville's polling. A couple other ones out there had them as national champions at their level too. 11-1, 8-0. 23, 157 points. They had 1 first place votes under a first-year coach, looking to see how he can get in the mix, getting it done, coming in as you would, showing off maybe getting it done in terms of taking over with that magical name from his father. That's Ron Dickerson Jr. A A lot of people are recognizing that name. It'll be interesting to see what people think there. Taking us to number 5, Miles Golden Bears. I'm interested to see what that looks like in terms of what these gentlemen think at the 5 spot. Miles Golden Bears, 7-3 last year, 6-2 overall, 2023 record. A lot of movement there when you talk about Sam Shade, 164 points, 1 first place vote. So fascinating to see what that looks like. And then we have Clark Atlanta University, a new coach to the program, not new necessarily in terms of the SIC, which is Teddy Keaton coming over there from Allen, made a run at it last year. Clark Atlanta 0-10, 0-8. This is probably the surprise of a lot of folks, but I believe in terms of this is going to be shocking for a lot of folks here. I have them as high as number 4, 165 points with 1 first place rankings. Let me go to Kindric first. All 4 of these teams out of the SIC. So it'll be interesting to see, will that trend change in terms of the top 3? Or will all the power be in the SIC in terms of just how strong it is? Kindric already kind of started stuff off and said that he only says 4 teams are legitimate can win it. I want to see if he thinks, are these the 4 or did he have some other ones in mind? I guess for that little smile he got there, it might be a little different. Go ahead, Kindric. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm first off, let me just say hats off to Teddy Keaton and everything he has going on around that program at Clark Atlanta. The documentary they're putting together to just go behind the scenes, I think all that's brilliant work. But let's be realistic here. The last time Clark Atlanta sniffed a championship was in 1991, and they shared that championship with 5 other schools.
What is it?
And their
more
best
than 20 years ago?
Yeah, their best win at Clark Atlanta came in that 91 season. Well, historically, their best win came in like 1920-something when they broke like a 40-game win streak for Tuskegee. But their second best win streak is beating Fort Valley and tying that race up in 1991. I think Coach Keaton is going to do a wonderful job at Clark Atlanta. I am all in for him. However, we've seen this story play out before. He takes a good amount of players with him to Clark Atlanta, plus the base that was already there. But you're talking about decades of losing. There is a culture, an atmosphere that he has to change at Clark Atlanta. And I think to say he has a shot at SIC championship is putting unrealistic goals on him. If Clark wins a game, they're going to be better than they were the last 2 years. If they win 2 games, they're going to be better than they've been the last 4 or 5 years. If he wins 3 games, they should build a monument for Teddy Keaton outside of Panther Stadium. So all I'm saying is, if Clark gets over 500, which I feel like they will be, Clark Atlanta is going to be one of those teams. They're going to be dangerous on the back end. When Coach Ruffin came from Miles to Tuskegee, he brought a bunch of players with him, and that was an SIC championship contender the year before. And it took us 3-4 games into the season to even mesh together with that team. So, I mean, you talking about meshing 2 programs together, and you were talking about meshing 2 winning programs together then, and it took you a while to get it together. Meshing a losing program and a program that was building together, yeah. If he gets the 5 wins, they should vote him Coach of the Year.
Wow. Kindric, with that being said, I got to ask you this question. Do you even have Clark Atlanta in the what I would call my second 7, which would be 8 through 15? Or do you have them in that bottom third, 21 to 14?
I got them in. I can put them in that second tier, just because they do have David Wright. They do have some pieces. I still have question marks for Clark Atlanta on defense, just plain and simple. That has been their problem. That's been their Achilles heel. And even when we start talking about Allen lost some games because they couldn't stop some people. I'm curious as to what that defense will look like. We know that a Teddy Keaton offense is going to put points on the board, plain and simple. Can Cole bring back that cold-blooded football when he was at Bama State? Now that he's helping Coach Keaton at Clark, that remains to be seen. So, like I said, 5 wins is like my ceiling. 5-6 wins for Clark, and I mean that's wonderful. That's great. If Clark wins 5 or 6 games, that man deserves Coach of the Year, SIC Coach of the
Year. Stevie, he bringing the pain this week. Gaither, what you got in terms of these first 4 in my top 7? Where are you? All out of the SIC. Kindric already destroyed and says Clark Atlanta should not be in the top 7. I've seen some of the followers out there, our lab listeners, they pretty much said the same thing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like Kindric says, I believe in Teddy Keaton. Obviously, the work that he's done it speaks for itself, right? So, with that said, even then, this is astronomically high. Top, not only top 10, I would say that's way high. Top 5, I say that's high, but what number 4? I mean, I wasn't even prepared for that. I was not even prepared for that. Honestly, yeah, I don't even know where I thought they were, but I definitely didn't think it was that high. Beyond those, I would say, Miles, I get it. Miles had a good season last year. Pulled off some FCS upsets, and did the thing. Benedict, I mean, it's rare you see some team go from 11-1. I think they're the wild card. As far as whatever's going to happen with them, usually when you see a coach leave like this, it generally is somebody who is on his staff as part of the most recent staff that stays there. And, you don't have the mass exodus. This is actually the first year that players can pretty much go wherever they want to from year to year. So I just I don't think Clark Atlanta is going to be nearly as good as the poll indicates. And I do not think that I don't know about Benedict. I would say either of them might be 6-4 or 4-6.
So same question to you in terms of Benedict. Do you have him in that second tier, that 15 through 8, or do you have him in the bottom tier, that 21 to that 15?
Yeah, I would have him in that second tier. They just lost so much. I mean, obviously including a generational coach for them, but yeah, that's a lot. I definitely have them in that middle tier. Like, I don't think they're going to completely go off the rocker, but I definitely don't see them be in the top 10 team.
Well, 80 Drew, he let the cat out of the bag. He was one of the voters. So Kindric, Steven, I know y'all got a lot of work on your plates, but on Sunday, I need your data. I need your top 7 or top 10 picks, and I'll put them into the formula and see if we can get you counting and see what all goes down. But I just want y'all to hear it here first. I'm telling you, Clark Atlanta is going to end up in the top 7. They're going to be top of the SIC, and you're going to be looking back and you'll be like, damn, Dr. Cavil is smart as hell.
Dr. Cavil, I also want to say, I think we need to put Benedict in the bottom tier. Whatever your bottom tier is, let's go ahead and ease them boys down in there.
Back to the bottom for Benedict, he says.
Yeah, that's
the two of them. It's a consensus then from you all that both Clark Atlanta and Benedict Tigers will not be in the top 7. I want to save it for the next segment. I will ask you, because in this place, if you drop 2 teams, you got to replace them with 2 teams. I want to save it because we hadn't finished the poll, so I want you to find out those top 3 first. But in that following segment, I'm going to ask you in terms of that, and I'll rewind as Gaither was here to make sure that you know those next 14 in terms of where I had them in terms of that mix, as well as I will share with you what that looks like, and so we can get in that discussion. With that being said, in fact, let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side and get into that top three and see if we can get a little more consensus if you feel comfortable with this top three, because you all just were not happy with at least two of the teams in the top seven. I can't believe y'all came on my show and broke it down like that. But hey, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But no F squared yet. We'll see. We'll come back and see if you can redeem yourself. We'll be right back after this break.
Choice Hotels is a family of brands that helps you get the most for your money so you can be any traveler you want to be.
You could be a free hot breakfast hero at a comfort hotel.
Yes!
That's how you waffle.
Mr. This Script got a plot twist at a Radisson hotel.
A business big leaguer.
Go for key.
Even the ultimate pool float inflator.
With 22 brands and the best value for your money, Choice Hotels has a stay for any you. Book direct at choicehotels.com, where travels come true.
Gotta get the corners.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working.
Ever not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield. Never not working.
You're looking for the...
Live from Atlanta, Georgia, the HBCU Football Capital hosts the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge on August 24th. Defending HBCU National Champion Florida A&M Rattlers versus the Norfolk State Spartans. For more information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. But for this week, we have none other than Kindric and Steve in the house. Steven in the house. With that being said, before I get into these top three, we call this a tease in the business. I'm going to give you, as I said, 80 wanted to know those last 28, those last 7, if you would. At number 28, you have Virginia Lynchburg sitting with 1 vote. They were 2-9 in 2023. Bringing us to 27, you have Lincoln, Missouri Tigers that were 0-10, 0-9 with 2 points coming in at 27. Bringing us to 26, we're going to come to Texas. Texas College Steer are 1-10, 1-7. They have 3 points as they jump into the mix. Bringing us to 25 is Bluefield State Big Blue out of the CIAA, 1-9, 0-8 in the conference race, 2023 with 4 points. Bringing us to 24, we're going to go into the SIEC. Morehouse Maroon Tigers, 1-9, 1-7, 20-23 with 5 points. Bringing us to 23, none other than Arkansas Baptist, Buffalo, 2-8 overall and 2-7. In 23, they earned 6 points. And finally, closing out that bottom 7, if you would, is number 22, with Elizabeth City State Vikings. They were 3-7, 2-6, with 8 points to give you those teams that were in the bottom that did not make the top 21 as we did. So give AD a little update in terms of what he wanted to do with that, but he asked for it. With that going on, let me get into the top 3. At number 3, we're going to go into the CIAA. Stephen, with Fayetteville State Broncos out of the Northern Division. They were 8-3, 8-0 in terms of what they did last year. 195 points, one loss in terms of how they with their first place votes. At number 2, we're going to stay in the CIAA with Virginia State Trojans. They finished at 8-2 and 6-2, 201 points. They have 2 first place votes. And number 1, still in the CIAA, Virginia Union Panthers at 9-2, 7-1, 3 first place votes, 202 points. They were ranked with 3 first place votes. Closing out our top 7, we have 4 out of the SIAC, 3 out of the CIAA. But in terms of these rankings, while there were more out of the SIAC, the top 3 are coming out of the CIAA. So I'm fascinated to see what you all, gentlemen, think about this in terms of those top 3 particularly, and your thoughts in terms of CIAA. Generally speaking, we tend to think about football more attached with the SIAC, but as of late, it seems like CIAA has been getting it done. So at 7, you have Fort Valley State Wildcats. At number 6, the Benedict Tigers. At number 5, Miles Golden Bears. At number 4, Clark Atlanta Panthers. At number 3, Fayetteville State Broncos. At number 2, Virginia State Trojans. At number 1, Virginia Union Panthers, getting it done in this mix. Let me start with you, Stephen Gaither. CIAA, at least into the mid-major for Dr. Ville, is trying to make a statement in terms of where they are. What are your thoughts in terms of the CIAA?
Yeah, I think those top 3 are fair. Obviously, Benedict was, the national champion last year at the mid-major ranking. But, obviously we were expecting some type of a drop off there. And, these 3 programs that you have up at the top, they're led by some guys that are consistent winners. You talk about Coach Hayes over at Fayetteville State, for as much as I like to joke about, their attendance woes and what happens when they get to Salem. They've been getting there. Last year, though, it was a little bit closer than it had been in previous years. When they got into CIAA South play, I think they beat Shaw by a touchdown. It was like a last-second Hail Mary. Livingstone was up on them in the second half. Johnson C. Smith, that was a tight one, nip and tuck. And Lord have mercy, my Rams were up 24-7 on them, and they found back and win. So hopefully, the Ram in me says hopefully they've used up all their fairy dust. Offense has been problematic for them for much of their run, or it hasn't been as sexy, but they've been able to really play solid defense. But last year, I think they were challenged by Johnson C. Smith getting better. I think Livingstone's gotten better. And I think WSSU's gotten better too. So, normally you look at them and you say, well, once they get past their non-South games there, they got easy sledding. But last year, I think if you look back at the scores and how things worked out, I don't think that's the case anymore. And then if you look at their crossover games, you've got Elizabeth City State, which is obviously in the bottom 7, but then you've also got Virginia State. They got to go up to Petersburg, and then they got to play Bowie State. So, they definitely could be in Salem once again, but they could be on the outside looking in again this year as well. So, and then obviously you got the 2 schools in Virginia. These are clearly the top 2 HBCU programs in Virginia, and that's regardless of those folks over in Hampton or Norfolk State, and I think we all know that. So, both of them get a chance to play former D1 rivals earlier this year, so they get a chance to really stake their claim for the state of Virginia, whether it's a CIAA state still or whether the D1s are back up to snuff. We'll see. I think they get at least one of those games. So no, I think but I think both of those, again, any of those top three, if they're any of that combination of top three, if they're in the CIAA championship, I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. But I also could see, again, some of them falling out too.
Be interesting when you think about that. As we talk about interesting when you look at Virginia State and Virginia Union, obviously Dr. Henry Frazier III coaching Virginia State, and then you have a doctor on the other side when that matchup comes up with Dr. Alvin Parker. You talking about what people think about the academics is fascinating. I'm not sure I can recall a time when you had both head coaches having a doctorate on their title. But Fayetteville State, led by Richard Hayes Jr. Let me go to you, Kindric, and get your thoughts in terms of this top three. CIAA heavy. Any problem with that from your perspective?
Yeah, I wish I had my notepad so we can go over the numbers, and I don't know why CIAA would be so top heavy in the top when the numbers just don't support them being that. But I can respect the Virginia Union, Virginia State being there. I mean, it is what it is for the top three, but Virginia Union won't be top three after week 1. So they go to Frankfurt to Kentucky State. They'll get clipped there, and then we'll come back and have a whole nother conversation. And you'll say, remember that conversation? And I'm going to say, yeah, I told you. So, I mean, if Morehouse
won't happen.
If Morehouse, I mean, come on now, Virginia Union is a one-dimensional team. That's what it is. They've lost their quarterback. They do have a strong defensive line coming back, probably one of the best in Division II football coming back. But however, one of the best run-stopping defenses was Kentucky State. Now you go back and look at that Kentucky State team. Now I'm telling you that's not going to be a walk in the park for Virginia Union, and Virginia Union is going to be surprised really early in the season. And then we'll come back, and I want to see this restructure, this SIAC really top heavy on Dr. Cavil's list.
I will be sure to make sure that we point that out one way or the other. So who do you have number one, Kindric? Who would you have number one?
Miles College number one, hands down. Just for me, Miles was 4 points from being a 9-1 team. When we talked about earlier, talking about divisional formats, and a lot of times we say divisional formats gets the two best teams in the championship game. I would really argue that the two best teams in the SIAC did not meet in the championship game again, and they haven't for a very long time in the SIAC. The second best team, hands down, in the conference was Miles. They go to Albany State and just forget how to play football last year, and not to take anything away from Albany State, but they did. The sickness, the injuries aside, however, they still should have showed up. They didn't show up, and so Albany State goes. But just the roster and the talent-wise, the second best team in the conference was clearly Miles College. What they have coming back, what they have, and what they've added, is to me, it's just. I don't know another Division II team that can compete with what Miles has right now.
So, Steven, in terms of the top three, I know you felt comfortable with the top three teams, but do you agree with my ranking that Virginia Union would be number one coming in the season, or would you have another number one team?
Yeah, I have VUU number one. Their passing situation is what it is. Kendrick's right. They are fairly one-dimensional. They'll find a couple games in the CIAA where they can throw the ball around a little bit. I feel like if they actually had a solid passing game, you're talking about a team that could make one of those Bowie State, Winston-Salem State D2 playoff runs. But they get in the playoffs every year and they get exposed for their one-dimensional run game as great as Jada Byers and the stable of backs that they have. So, but I still would, again, they've been able to win a CIAA championship that way. Virginia State, their quarterback, Jordan Davis, he was more than serviceable. had some up and down games, but he is no longer with Virginia State as far as I think he's exhausted his eligibility. So I'm going to be curious to see what they're going to be able to do. I mean, they're a run team too, but they do like to pass the ball. One team that I didn't see on your list, Doc, as I go down it, and here I am having to bring these guys up again in football season. It's a whole new world. But Johnson C. Smith, those guys over in Beatties Ford Road, they're not on your list. And I don't know. I think Clark Atlanta stole their spot, to be honest with you. They should probably be in that top 7, maybe I'd say under Fort Valley and Skeegee. I probably put them at number 7. But yeah, they finally beat Winston-Salem State University. They achieved the dream, won this Charlotte Super Bowl, so they're feeling themselves. Their president's talking smack to everybody. So we got to restore order. But until that happens, Johnson C. Smith and Coach Flowers, the job that they've done down there is definitely more than worth mention. So, yeah, definitely wanted to put that in there.
Well, you were here last week, Stephen, so you got this second set of the 7. But for Kindric, I want to name these, and I'm going to go back to that question of the day. If you're going to pull 2 down, which it seems like you're in agreement, both of you all, in terms of Clark Atlanta and Benedict, shouldn't be in that top 7. Let me give you this next 7. And Gaither, you have the right to push somebody up, and it sounds like you might push them up, but they weren't in that 7 either. So let me get into this mix when you're talking about 15 through 8. 15 was Winston-Salem State Rams, 4-6, 7 4-4. Probably could have seen Johnson Smith there, maybe slide Winston-Salem down to that 16 slot. But with that being said, for this exercise at 14, Central State, 5-5, 4-3. At number 13, you have Florida Memorial Lions, 6-4, 5-2. At 12, you had Edward Waters, Tigers at 6-4, 5-3. At 11, you had Albany State Golden Rams at 6-5, 6-2, excuse me. At number 10, Bowie State Bulldogs at 6-4, 5-3. At number 9, you had Langston Lions at 6-4, 5-3. And at number 8, you have Tuskegee Golden Tigers 7-4, 6-2. So of those 5, in Gaither, I allow you to Johnson C. Smith if you want to push them up for that this exercise. Who are you pulling out? You said 4, Clark Atlanta, 6, Benedict Tigers. You pulling them out. Of those next 7, who are you putting up in that top 7?
Okay? So yeah, I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna put Johnson C. Smith in that top 7. I'm taking down Clark Atlanta and Benedict. I'm putting Johnson C. Smith up there right now, and then I am putting I'm gonna put up Bowie State as well. So I'm gonna add those 2 teams in there. Yeah, because I feel like Johnson C. Smith is better than Edward Waters for Memorial. Those are nice stories, but they were better than them. Albany State, they made a championship game. Langston, Tuskegee, I mean, yeah, I would put them above all those teams.
So you drop 2 SIAC teams out, add in 2 CIAA teams and put them in there. So you got 5 of the top 7 out of the CIAA. If that is the case, you talk about a conference to watch at the mid-major level, the CIAA. Give a little extra plug there. Shout out to HBCU Heritage Center. Doc, I finally got a chance to check it out. So let me go to you, Kindric. It's your turn to be able to be the guru in terms of Dr. Ville's top 7. You know the rules of engagement. If you're going to take 2 out, and you clearly said 2 got to go, who are you 2 you bringing in? Let me say it again just so you're clear. Obviously, I have Johnson C. Smith out of that next 7, but just for dexterity, as I did it for Stephen, you have them in the mix as well. But you have at number 15, Winston-Salem State, 4-6, 4-4. And number 14, Central State Matadors at 5-5. You have number 13, Florida Memorial Lions, 6-4. Number 12, Edward Water Tigers, 6-4, 5-3. Number 11, Albany State Golden Rams at 6-5, 6-2. And number 10, Bowie State Bulldogs, 6-4, 5-3. Gaither pulled them up. At number 9, Langston Lions at 6-4, 5-3. And number 8, Tuskegee Golden Tigers, 7-4, 6-2. Johnson C. Smith, he also pulled up. Out of those 7-8 programs, you're dropping out Clark Atlanta, Benedict, both out of the SIAC. Are you going to go with some CIAA love, or are you sticking with the SIAC? Who are you pulling up? You going to split it? Any NIA love? Nobody talks about Langston. No Fort Valley, Florida Memorial, I should say. NIA. I know y'all D2 gurus and can't get no love in NIA.
I will say, I got my own beef with Langston for what they came and did at Tuskegee a couple of years ago. Just randomly, I don't even know how it just randomly happened. That's the thing about those NAIA schools. If you randomly put them on your schedule, you better randomly play because they come with a purpose. So I don't even like to see NAIA schools on our schedule. And Edward Waters, let this be a note. The honeymoon stage is over for y'all being the SIC. Y'all better not lose the Florida Memorial this year. I'm sick of that. Cut that out. That got to stop. So y'all got to prove that y'all are the best mid-major HBCU in Florida. End of discussion. Got to cut that Florida Memorial losing out. If I could, I would drop every CIAA school except one, and I would probably put that one at 5. However, for the sake of just the records, to be fair, okay, because I think by the time we get to week 3, we'll understand, because probably the only CIAA win that they will get, Virginia State will probably clip Benedict, and if they lose to Benedict, then the CIAA will not win a game against the SIAC this season.
Virginia State's not losing to Benedict, man. We don't even know who's on the team. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I 100% agree with you, because I put Benedict at the bottom tier. I don't, and there's no knock on them. It's just
they're not sure. They're not sure from last year. Let's say that they're not sure.
Yeah, but and Benedict is not Benedict from last year. But the CIAA favor in VUU is going to Frankfurt to be demolished. So that'll even that go out. But I'm gonna drop Fayetteville State. So I'm gonna drop Fayetteville State, Clark, Atlanta, and Benedict out of the top 7.
Good stuff. Let's take the next break. Oh, go ahead.
And I'm gonna bring up. I gotta bring up my Golden Tigers. Come on now. There's no SIAC championship that don't come through Tuskegee. Like you can't even spell SIAC without Tuskegee. So you gotta bring Tuskegee up. And if I bring Tuskegee up, I got to bring Albany State up. Like, come on now, let's stop playing. How many times has Albany State not been in the SIAC championship in the last 15, 20 years? 1 time, twice? Damn. Yeah, maybe 3 times. But and then I'm gonna bring up Edward Waters.
So those are my dropping out. You dropping out Benedict, Clark, and who? What's the third team you dropping out the top 7?
Fayetteville State.
Okay. I got you. Wow. Fascinating. Good stuff. Let's take last break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get back into some discussion. I want to ask these guys a couple of things, and then we'll wrap it up. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit HBCUPrideJoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Hey, grab me one too. Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft. Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody. Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody. We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Atlanta, Georgia. The HBCU Football Capital hosts the Cricket MEAC SWAT Challenge on August 24th. Florida A&M Rattlers, Norfolk State Spartans. SWAT versus MEAC. The rivalry is real. Come out to Center Park Stadium to see the returning HBCU national champions and two of the best HBCU bands in the land, the Marching 100 and the Spartan Legion. The day starts with a kickoff fan experience tailgate and concludes with a primetime matchup on ABC. For more information, visit MEACSWATChallenge.com.
Touch the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with none other than Kindric and Steven giving you a breakdown on the HBCU D2 mid-major. Asked them to show a little love at NIA. They touched on it, just a little love. But with that being said, I wanted to ask a little more philosophical questions and get your thoughts, since I really got two people that are pillars of that mid-major division that follow it, unlike most of us in terms of those HBCU folks, in terms of being able to go into the detail, not just in terms of what's going on now, but from a historical perspective. Oftentimes you all can dig back and give a little history on that perspective. But my question for you, the first one here in this last segment, is to ask you about this difference in philosophy. Obviously in the CIAA, you have the divisional matchups. We've seen that across the HBCU sphere, really across HBCU sports, as history would have it. CIAA split in divisions years before it even became a thing, if you would, at the Division I level, when SEC added two teams, programs, and divided the split up in division, play a championship game. If you go back and look at the documentation, you'll see that the CIAA, along with another D2 conference, was in the forefront of being able to do that. But with that being said, now you go with the current SEIC model, where you talk about just the top two teams, where a lot of conferences are going to that. And you see CIAA in terms of the two divisions. One of the reasons people may not realize is putting yourself in a better position to make sure that you can get as many teams in terms of the Division II playoffs is one of the rationales I was hearing that SIAC looked in terms of changing that format. But starting with you, Stephen, what are your thoughts in terms of that for the CIAA? Is that something you would be interested in seeing, or are you more comfortable with the current format for whatever reason?
Yeah, well, they had to make the decision this year to go away from divisions because of the loss to St. Augustine's University. Again, like you said, CIAA has been doing this for a long time. They had their first championship game in 1971, I believe. I believe it's the oldest in the NCAA, if I'm not mistaken. They kind of went away from it for a couple years in the late 70s, and then brought it back and kind of went back and forth. But I think it's always been good historically because of the way the teams are built. The majority now in North Carolina, but we used to have quite a bit in Virginia as well, and in the northern regions. So I think the division format has its pluses and downfalls. There will be some years where one division was just stronger than the other. CIAA North for pretty much the past decade has been, for most of the last decade, has been the stronger of the two divisions, and sometimes the best two teams would be in the division, and so one of them would get into the CIAA championship game, and the other one would have to hope that maybe they could get a playoff spot. A couple times that's happened, even with them not having the championship game. I do like the idea of the two best teams playing for each other, but it's almost like another playoff game again. I don't know how you feel about that. And then also, I think the division format helps because one of the things about the CIAA is a lot of folks in North don't realize in North Carolina, I think there are between you got like 14 FBS programs and like 8, 9, 10 FCS programs, and then you got quite a bit of D2 programs as well. So in a sizable state, but we're kind of stretched far and wide. And so in the last decade, as football schools like UNC Pembroke have garnered up Wingate, Lenore Ryan, some of these D2 powers that are here in North Carolina, the HBCUs, you talk about resources. They don't have the resources to compete with those guys a lot of times. So it's a stretch for the D2 teams in North Carolina, and Virginia and Maryland not quite as thick in terms of all the way down. So I think the divisional format has its pluses and minuses. I'm just hoping that the best teams in the CIAA will continue to get a chance to compete in the playoffs, because until they find a Celebration Bowl-like game that's going to give us like some Celebration Bowl-like money, the playoffs, competing in the playoffs is going to be kind of a measuring stick. And we've seen teams make deep runs, and I hope that whoever comes out of the CIAA can get back to that, because I think that speaks is a great part of the HBCU brand.
Kindric, questioning you in regards to that. You've seen the old format, 1 year in terms of new format. Which do you prefer? Obviously, last year, a lot of interest going into the back end of the season because so many teams were still in the hunt. Ultimately, you had a tiebreaker to find out the second team to go to the SIAC championship game. So that may have been a little nuance that people really didn't consider in terms of what that looks like. Are you in favor of this new format for the SIAC, or are you liking the old format where you had the divisions? Where are you on that?
To be honest with you, I missed the SIAC prior to 2013 when they bought this on. And that's before division, but the new divisional format, when the SIC decided to go to the division format in the beginning, we had Stillman, we had Payne that was trying to bring football back. There were some other schools that were in, and then as the conference expanded, certain teams didn't want to move, like when Edward Waters and Allen joined the conference. So I get why we're on the division side. I have heard the commissioner say it was to have a better shot at the playoffs. Well, we can see that the teams they're not choosing playoffs, they're choosing payouts because that's why you look at a lot of SIAC schools and they have 2 or 3 FCS opponents on there. I will say that I'm glad that Fort Valley decided to step out this year and schedule Delta State. I'm glad that Miles decided to add West Alabama and only play 1 FCS opponent, which I think fares better for us now that we are in divisionless. Overall, because all the schools are not equal in the SIAC. Some of them are just playing with one hand tied behind their back, and it's just difficult for them. And because the optics on it looks kind of bad, and I will say that Byron Brown, right, at Lane College, I just use him as an example. I think Byron Brown is an amazing coach. And when these jobs come open, when people get to talking about coaches, he doesn't get the respect that I think that he deserves being at a place like Lane College. And going to this divisional format doesn't bowl the best for them. And so can they win the SIC championship at Lane? I'm always saying I think success looks different at different places. And so like for the teams like Lane and the Allens and those teams that they're not able to fund 36, like they're funding 15, 18. I think that it's a struggle for them. But overall, I think it does bid for more excitement. But to be honest with you, the excitement has always been because it normally would come down to Tuskegee and Miles the last game, even when we had divisional format. I think sometimes we have short memories because you got the year that Kentucky State slipped up and beat Miles and beat Tuskegee both on their homecomings, and they ended up in so you still got the drama with the divisions. But if you want the two best teams in the championship game, I think this is probably the best route. But I think the two best teams still have not made it to SIC championship game in quite some time.
That's interesting when you think about that, because the games are playing on the field, and there's one thing about records, but how do you really say a record is a record when everybody doesn't play each other? But that's a whole different discussion. Obviously, you're constrained by 8-game schedule, or maybe now you see some folks talking about 9, but whatever that looks like, even if you get to 10, you can't play everybody. Rapid fire, as we're going to come up to close, I got to get you on the record for this question. Obviously, a little back and forth in terms of the SIAC and CIAA, so we kind of stumbled on it. But listen to you all have your dialogue and show last year about HBCUs at the Division II level. I was fascinating to hear just how much there is not the same type of fervor, if you would, with this MEAC SWAC type matchup. Doesn't really exist between the CIAA and SIAC. So while I have you, yes or no, just want to kind of get your thoughts on this. I'm going to start with you, Kindric. Would you like to see more SIAC, CIAA matchups? Obviously, you got the new thing, it looks like, with the Black College Hall of Fame game that's going to take the previous year champions and have them face off to kick off the season in that classic. And then at the end of the season last year, you had the Beach Bowl, which features the SIAC, CIAA. But just in general, regular season, would you like to see more SIAC, CIAA playoffs? Yes, no?
I'm gonna say no, but when they were in the region, when they was in Region 7 with us for playoff purposes, yes, I wanted it. But now, no.
Gotcha. Steven, what are your thoughts on that? Would you like to see more CIAA, SIAC matchup?
I think I like the idea of the two previous champions. I think meeting in the Hall of Fame game. I think that's cool. And then obviously, the schools that are in North Carolina, specifically Johnson C. Smith, Livingstone, even Winston-Salem State, to play a school in South Carolina or Georgia. I mean, I think those games are fine, but a lot of us, we're gonna like the same thing. It's an 8-game schedule. Generally, I think they're going to 7 this year just because of the loss of St. Aug. So you want to play your money game, and then hopefully play one of those teams that are in your region to see how you measure up and be able to play outside of HBCU football, because when you get into the playoffs again, like we've seen with Virginia Union the last couple of years and Fayetteville State the year before that, a lot of times the ball is played a little bit different, and if you haven't been prepared for it, it can be tough. Someone said that the CIAA and the SIC are the young MEAC and SWAC. It's actually that backwards.
You're right.
CIAA, the MEAC was born out of the CIAA. It's the youngest of the conferences, 1971, and the SWAC was just a couple years after the SIC. But the Colored Intercollegiate Athletic Association was founded in 1912 on the campus of Hampton University. So,
good stuff. Very accurate and true. I'm glad that you shared that perspective, because I don't know, a lot of our MEAC and SWAC fans may not really understand that. And a lot of that is built in because of the D2 components, and historically not a lot of crossover matchups. And even in the Pioneer Bowl, as it shut down, part of that may have been why that was not quite as strong as it could be. With that being said, thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Again, hope you enjoyed these two guys. Make sure you continue following, check them out, and listen to them, as they will give you some insights as you get into your HBCU games and check it out. So some good football being played in CIAA, SIAC, and I'm going to give some love to the NIA programs as well as in those independent programs at the Division II level. So check them as well. Be right here. We give you the poll rankings. We'll give you the updates throughout the year. We'll have to bring them back, give them my poll updates, because I think it'll be entertaining to see what they thought, because they were not too happy with their top 7, but that'll do it for us. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Will's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday. 6 o'clock, and Sunday starting in the fall with the football season at Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. I will say this. It's an open invitation. You can vote now. Send me your top 7, top 10 weekly. I'll put them into the formula. We'll see what's shake it up. That way y'all have a voice. And then y'all can't come back and say y'all didn't get a voice. We'll see what that looks like. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Steven?
Of course.
Kindric?
Oh, wait, I'm finna fail. Am I supposed to say it's supposed to be dismissed, right?
No, dismiss is the last one. Lecture. Course, lecture, dismiss.
Oh,
I'm gonna try it again.
Course.
Lecture.
Kindred. Dismiss. Good job, man. I might let you come back now.